Hi, I'm Tom. I'm with Banks Brothers Motorcycles. What I'd like to talk to you about today is a couple of my bikes and an engine puller that we designed to be able to pull the engine out of a Harley Davidson motorcycle. My bike to the right is my 52 Panhead. This is actually the first Harley Davidson I've ever had. And George gave me this bike way back in 1984. George and I bought this bike together over in Coshocton, Ohio in about 1978. What we are now is we're in the final stages of restoration on this bike. On this bike back here that G-Man is working on, this is the 36 Knucklehead. This is the most classic Harley Davidson out there. For you that know, 36 was from 1936 to 1947. They made the Knucklehead. In 1936, when they came out with the Knucklehead, they were late in getting the bike out to the marketplace. And throughout the course of the year, they kept changing things. The 1936 Knuckle is so iconic because it has 1,100 one-year parts. It has approximately 3 different frames, maybe 4. It has 3 to 5 different oil tanks, somewhere in that range. The parts for a 36 are really, really difficult to come by. What we do, this bike is in a mock-up stage, different from final restoration. This bike's in final restoration, this bike's in mock-up. When we mock them up, what we like to do is we like to kind of bolt everything up and see how it's all going to fit. Then we break it back down and we go for our final restoration stage. What we're going to do for you today is we're going to pull the engine out of this 36 Knucklehead. This is a very early 36. You can see it has the notch timing cover. It has the baby jars. It also has the frog eyes. Those are all very, very indicative of maybe the first 0 to 300, 0 to 500. We really don't know exactly when they started to change and take the frog eyes and cut out the notch. We just know that that happened somewhere in the process. So what you're seeing, George, is he's going to pull this tank off. Then we're going to bring the engine lift in. We're going to walk in. We're going to grab this motor. We're going to walk it out. We're going to take it over there, set it on the bench for you, and then we're going to take it off the bench and put it back in this beautiful 1936 Sherwood green and silver, a very, very iconic motorcycle. That is a correct 1936 color. We love it, like we love them all. George is currently taking this tank off. I got it. That is a very, very rare tank. There's nothing about this bike that isn't rare and expensive. That's probably why we like them so much.
Number 177, one of the first Knuckleheads ever built. Very sought after, iconic machine.
What we know about the 36 is there was approximately between 1,500 and 2,000 of them built. We also have different stages or different series. We call it in the AMCA we call it series 1, 2, and 3. Some people even break it down to 4 series. In other words, 4 different 36s that they kind of break down into series. Basically, if they have a baby jar, they're, series 1. If they have the frog eyes, series 1. Notch cover, series 1. As the bike developed, the series changed. They went away from the notch cover and so on and so forth. This is the most iconic Harley Davidson there is, 36 EL. Love it.
Set the precedent of motorcycling probably for the next 100 years when they brought this out.
And the reason they were able to do that and the reason they were able to defeat Indian was because they came out with overhead valve, okay? Indian, like the Harley Flatheads, was a side valve. And when the overhead valve come out, it was a much better motor, simple as that. Hey G,
yeah.
Listen, we've got the engine puller here. Let's pull this engine out of here and show the guys how it works.
No problem. Well, we're not quite lined up. I'll take it up some here.
What we're going to do here now is George is going to walk in our puller.
Back off there.
He's going to walk our puller in, and we're going to get ourselves in contact with this motor. Down a touch. Okay, walk it in. What I'm doing here is I'm adjusting it. We have pieces that go over here, our arms, and they grab the cylinders. And that's essentially what we're lifting on is the cylinders. What I'm doing is I'm just cranking down the safety arm here to
You're good there.
make our... Now what's going to happen is George is just ever so slightly going to jack it up.
Very, very tight. See?
Pull it out of there.
As me jack her up, pull it right on out. And of course, We're good to go. I'm gonna pull it right out.
There you have it, 36 EL, number 1177. Very early. Guys, what we want to do now is we want to take the motor and we want to put it in an engine stand. This is normally what we use to work on our motors. We put it in a stand, we bolt it down in the stand so it's secure, and hold it, G, down easy. Then all we'll do is we'll loosen it up, we'll walk it out of here, and we'll be in position to work on the motor. Slicker and slime. That's it. All we'll do now is we'll take a couple of the bolts, we'll drop them down through, and we'd be prepared to work on our motor. Guys, the thing about the engine puller that's just so significant is the injuries. You know, the reason we actually designed this is we were working on the 52 and I pulled the motor out. And remember, the way we'd do it in the past is one guy would kind of push you the motor. You have very little clearance that you have to get your hands in there and try to pick that motor up, walk over here, rotate and set it in the stand without hurting your back. What we've done is we've decided to design the engine lift because we got tired of hurting our backs. We're not young guys anymore, we're in our 50s and 60s, and this is absolutely the easiest way to move a motor. We can move any of the Harley motors, and we can do it in a very, very short period of time, and it's a one-man operation. You see me working here with G-Man today, but at the end of the day, we don't need one another. We would easily be able to pull this motor by ourselves. Obviously, we enjoy working together, so the two of us are always pulling motors together. Hey, G, let's put the engine back in the 36 frame, huh? Come on in, walk it in. There again, guys, G could do this on his own if he really wanted to, but we work together. George is actually the master mechanic, and I'm actually the organizer. He's got a little bit ahead of me on mechanical stuff. How we doing, G?
Good. Everything's looking good. Tightening right down.
What we're doing is we're grabbing both sides of the cylinders here. We're going to bring it up off of the engine block, or the engine stand, I'm sorry, and we're going to take it back over. You all good, G?
Yeah, I'm all good.
So it's going to rock a little bit? Is it going anywhere?
Yeah, everything looks good.
Bring it into that hole, G. Come on in.
Like this.
Tweak it. And that's the really nice thing about the jack, guys, is we're really able to tweak it down nice and easy. Walk it in. Walk it in. Down some. Boom.
Boom. You can see 1/4 inch clearance there.
The thing about the Knucklehead, guys, as you can see, it's going to be more difficult than the Panhead or any of the other Harleys because that frame, and this is a correct 36 only frame, guys, that clearance is less than a 1/2 inch. You don't have a lot of room to be able to jack it up and move it out because you have other parts that you got to sneak by too. So, but you can see it's absolutely a makeable putt, and she's back in. 36 EL Knucklehead. One of the things I like to talk about is Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart's the driving force with Banks Brothers Motorcycles. He was the guy that had introduced us to motorcycles along with our father at a very young age. He was a guy that rode with our father. He was our father's best friend. Even today when we road trip, we never go anywhere without Mr. Hart. We've been in probably 45 states here in the country, all been with Mr. Hart. One of the things that we did when we developed the engine lift was we consulted with Mr. Hart, of course, because you know all of us are getting at those advancing ages where you don't just pull a motor by hand. It's a lot easier with the Banks lift. What do you think about that, Mr. Hart?
Tell you, I've been riding since 1953, and this is the slickest thing that I've seen to get a motor out of one of these motorcycles. I wish I'd have had them when I started riding, and we used to do our own repair work, most of it. But I think every shop ought to have one if you're serious about fixing.
Well, we're hopeful that that's what happens today in America, Mr. Hart. We hope every shop has one.
Banks lift is a great product, and it'll do the job.